What if the one question you tried to laugh away ended up changing your whole life? The Golden Spur Saloon sat at the loudest corner of Red Creek, Montana territory, where dust hung in the air like it paid rent. Men crowded the tables every night, drinking whiskey strong enough to knock a mule sideways. Lantern light swung from the rafters and painted shadows that jumped across the wooden walls. Serena Hol moved through that buzz and noise like she had been born doing it. At 24, she had already lived enough hard years to know how to survive without ever letting the world see her break. Her dress was patched at the elbows, her boots worn thin, and her apron stained from long shifts that felt like they would never end. Her dark hair was twisted into a tight bun, though a few strands always slipped free to frame her tired face. But she kept moving, always moving. She carried a tray loaded with stew, cornbread, and beer toward the cattlemen in the corner. Their laughter rose over the music from the old piano player in the back. "Here you are, gentlemen," Serena said with a polite smile. Cotton, a grizzled ranch hand with tobacco-stained teeth, leaned back in his chair. "Why's a pretty girl like you working yourself to death in a place like this?" he asked. Serena smiled, the same small smile she used every day, a smile that kept trouble calm. "Making an honest living, Cotton? Same as you." Another man smirked. "You look tired enough to plant corn under them eyes." Their friends roared with laughter. Serena didn't flinch. She had learned that showing hurt only made men laugh harder. She just picked up her empty tray and moved back toward the bar. Garrett, the owner, didn't even look up from the glass he was wiping. "Keep table 6 happy," he said. "They spend good money." "Yes, sir." She didn't remind him they hadn't tipped her decent in months. She didn't mention the man who grabbed her wrist last week. She needed the job. She needed the $4 a week. She needed the leftovers. She took home for her younger sister Opal, whose coughing had grown worse again. So she kept working. The night wore on, rougher than usual. Miners stomped in with silver dust on their faces. Ranch hands slapped each other on the back. Cards slapped tables. Boots dragged across the floor. And the questions from drunk men got bolder. "Hey, sweetheart," a young ranch hand called, waving her over. "We got a question for you." Serena braced herself. What do you want most in your life? What do you dream about when you finally crawl into that bed at night? The men leaned forward, waiting for her to blush or stutter or act embarrassed. Serena felt her heart twist. She thought of her sister coughing at 3 in the morning. She thought of the medicine that cost more money than she had. She thought of sleeping only a few hours before another long shift. So she laughed lightly and said, "A day off, maybe 2 if the heavens feel generous." The table exploded with laughter. "A day off," the boy shouted. "That's all she wants." They found it hilarious. Serena didn't. Because underneath the joke, it was the truth. She returned to the bar to grab more glasses. Her feet ached. Her back ached. Her heart ached. Then the saloon doors swung open and the room shifted. Not quiet, just different. A tall man stepped inside. He wore a dark brown duster coat, a fine shirt beneath it, and boots made from expensive leather. He took in the room with slow, steady eyes. Eyes the color of Montana sage. Garrett straightened immediately. "Evening, Mr. Montlair." The name floated through the saloon like wildfire. Nash Montlair, the richest cattleman for 3 territories. A man who owned more land than most counties. A man worth more than Red Creek could count in 10 years. Serena froze as those sage-green eyes found her. His gaze didn't wander over her like other men. It didn't judge or corner or linger in ways that made her skin crawl. He just looked. Calm, steady, curious. "Serena," Garrett said sharply. "Mr. Montlair's table." "No." She swallowed, smoothed her apron, and walked to the private corner table set aside for the wealthy. "Good evening, sir," she said quietly. "What can I bring you?" "Coffee. Black," Nash said in a deep, even voice, "and whatever supper you recommend." Quote. She brought him stew and fresh coffee. He ate with quiet manners, barely speaking, until she came to clear his dishes. "How long have you worked here?" Nash asked. "Nearly 3 years, sir." "You look tired." The softness in his voice hit her harder than all the rude comments she'd gotten that night. Tired wasn't something men usually noticed in women like her. But he saw it. "I manage," she said. "What do you want most in this world, Miss Hol?" The same question thrown at her earlier, but this time it sounded real. Serena looked at him. Something in this steady gaze made her speak the truth without hiding. "A day off," she whispered. "One day where I don't have to pretend everything is fine. One day to breathe." Nash didn't laugh. He reached into his vest, pulled out a gold coin, and set it on the table. $20. Serena stared. Her weekly wage was $4. "I can't take that," she whispered. "You earned it," he said simply. "Thank you for the conversation." Then he stood, put on his hat, and walked out of the saloon while every man in the room turned to stare. Serena stood frozen. $20 sat in her hand. $20 of answered prayers. $20 that made her wonder why a cold, powerful cattle baron looked at her like she was someone worth noticing. That night, when she walked home through the quiet street, she held that coin like a secret she didn't understand. She had no idea her life had just changed. She had no idea Nash Montlair would be back. She had no idea the next time he asked her a question, it wouldn't be about what she wanted, it would be about who she wanted. And why he hoped the answer might be him. What if the man you tried to keep at a distance became the only one standing between you and danger? Rain rolled over Red Creek like the sky had split in half. Thunder shook the windows of the Golden Spur Saloon as Serena wiped down tables after a long, slow evening. Only a few customers had braved the storm, and most of them left early. The only man still sitting in the corner was Nash Montlair. His hat rested on the table. His coat hung over the chair. His eyes, those sage-green eyes, kept drifting to her every few minutes, quiet but sharp, as though he was watching more than her steps, as though he was watching her. She tried not to notice. She failed. The wind howled outside, and Garrett finally called out, "Closing early! Storm's too strong!" The remaining man left quickly. Nash didn't. Serena dried her hands on her apron and glanced toward his table. "You should head out before the storm gets worse," she said. "So should you," he replied. She tried to stay professional, even though her stomach twisted every time he looked up at her. "I'll leave once I'm finished." He stood and walked toward her. The lantern light caught the drops of rain on his coat sleeve from when he first arrived. He stopped only a few feet away. "Serena," he said softly, "can I ask you something personal?" Her throat tightened. "You can ask." I might not answer. "Why did you come to Red Creek?" She froze. Of all the questions. She swallowed hard and leaned against the table, her voice low. "My father died in a mine collapse near Denver. My mother remarried a man who wanted nothing to do with her daughters. Opal and I came here because we thought we had an aunt to live with. She died before we got here, so we stayed." She lifted her chin. "We survived. I've been surviving ever since." Nash listened without interrupting. Then he said quietly, "You deserve more than surviving." "I don't need more. I just need to keep going." Another crack of thunder split the sky. The saloon shook. Serena jumped, her breath catching. Nash stepped closer. His hand brushed her arm, warm and steady. "Hey," he said gently. "It's just the storm." But the storm wasn't what scared her. It was him. It was the way he looked at her like she mattered. The way his voice softened when he said her name. The way her heart reacted every time he stood near. "Nash," she whispered. "We should not." "Tell me to stop," he said, his voice barely above the storm outside. "Tell me, and I will." She opened her mouth to say the sensible thing, the safe thing. Stop. Walk away. But instead she said the truth. "I'm afraid of how I'm starting to feel." Something shifted in him, something deep, raw, honest. His hand lifted to her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. The touch was gentle enough to undo her. "I feel it too," he murmured. Lightning lit the room. And before Serena could stop herself, she leaned forward and kissed him. The kiss hit like fire. Years of loneliness and exhaustion melted under the heat of his mouth. His hands slid to her waist, pulling her close. She felt herself lift as he set her on the edge of the table, her legs trembling around him. "Nash," she breathed. "Tell me what you want," he whispered against her neck. But before she could answer, the back door slammed open. "Serena?" Garrett's voice cut through the room. They broke apart so fast, Serena almost fell. Nash caught her, steadying her, then stepped away. Face calm, breath uneven, eyes dark with what they had almost done. Garrett's stare moved between them. Suspicion, disapproval. "I'll walk her home," Garrett said flatly. "I'll walk her," Nash said, his tone firm. Serena felt the moment tighten into a choice: reputation or desire, sense or danger. She swallowed hard. "Garrett is right," she said quietly, using Nash's surname. "It wouldn't be appropriate." Pain flickered in Nash's eyes, but he nodded, stepped back, and walked out into the storm. Garrett waited until he was gone. "You're playing with fire," he warned. Serena didn't argue. She nodded once, grabbed her shawl, and stepped into the rain. The storm pushed against her as she hurried home. Her heart raced with every memory of his hands, his mouth, his voice murmuring her name like it meant something. She told herself she'd forget it. She told herself she'd be smart. She told herself she'd stay away from Nash Montlair. But 3 days later, a boy appeared at her cabin with a folded note. She opened it. "Meet me at the old homestead north of town. Sunset. Please." Serena closed her eyes. She knew she shouldn't go. She knew better. But when the sun began to sink, she saddled a horse and rode north. The abandoned homestead sat quiet, wind brushing the tall grass. Nash stood on the porch waiting, eyes soft with something she didn't have a name for. "You came," he said. "I almost didn't." "Why did you?" She whispered the truth. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." He stepped forward, hands trembling as they cupped her cheeks. "Then there's something I need to tell you," he said. "And you must hear all of it." Serena's breath caught. "What is it?" Quote, he looked away toward the wide Montana prairie, and his voice dropped low with shame. "5 years ago, your father died in a mine collapse near Denver. That mine belonged to my family." Serena's heart stopped. Nash kept talking. "We knew the shafts were unstable. We knew the supports were failing. My father refused to shut it down. I was young, foolish, and didn't speak up when I should have. 3 weeks later, the mine collapsed." Serena felt the ground tilt. "No," she whispered. "Your father died because my family chose profit over safety," Nash said quietly. "I've lived with that guilt every day." Serena stared at him as tears blurred her vision. "So that's why you came here," she whispered. "Why you noticed me, why you helped me." "Yes," he said. "At first, but Serena." He stepped close. "I didn't stay because of guilt." His voice broke. "I stayed because I fell in love with you." Serena trembling, torn between grief and hope, anger and longing. "I don't know what to do with this," she whispered. "Then take time," Nash said. "I'll wait as long as it takes." But his next words shattered everything she thought she knew. "And Serena, I want to make it right. I want the truth about your father told. I want to honor him. I want to take care of you both, if you'll let me." Serena's heart hammered. She needed to breathe. She needed to think. She needed to choose. And the choice she made next would change both their lives forever. What if the man you thought you should walk away from turned out to be the only future your heart wanted? Serena stepped back from Nash, her breath coming too fast as the wind brushed across the empty homestead. The sunset poured gold over the prairie, but inside her chest, everything felt torn and dark. "You should have told me," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You should have said something the first night." "You're right," Nash said quietly. "I was afraid you'd walk away before I could show you who I am now, not who I was then." Serena shook her head, tears burning her eyes. My father died because your family ignored the warnings, because the people in charge cared more about money than lives. I know, Nash said, pain tightening his voice. And every day since, I've tried to be a different kind of man. A man he would have trusted. A man who does the right thing, even when it costs him. I didn't come here to fix the past. I came to take responsibility for it. Serena turned away, looking at the horizon stretching endless and wide. She remembered her father's warm laugh, his strong hands, the way he'd carried Opal on his shoulders. She remembered the collapse, the fear, the hunger, the desperate years that followed. And the nights she'd cried quietly so Opal wouldn't hear. You can't make this right, she whispered. No, Nash said, but I can honor your father. I can clear his name publicly. I can tell the truth the world should have heard years ago. I can make sure everyone knows it wasn't his fault. Serena slowly turned back to him. And why? She asked. Why do this for me? Nash stepped closer, his eyes steady. Because I love you, he said. Because you are the strongest woman I've ever known. Because even exhausted and hurting, you walk into that saloon every night with your head high. Because you deserve a life that isn't just survival. You deserve peace. And hope. And joy. And someone who puts you first. Serena stared at him, the wind lifting her hair, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. I can't promise to forgive you, she said. Not yet. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Nash said softly. I'm asking for a chance to prove who I am now. To earn your trust. To earn a place in your life, if you want me there. She took a long, shaking breath. My father's name, she said. Clear it. Make it public. Make sure everyone knows he was a good man. I will, Nash said without hesitation. And the memorial fund, she added, for minors, families. For the ones still struggling. It's already being set up, Nash said. In his name, not mine. Serena swallowed hard. Her heart felt too full and too fragile at the same time. And no more lies, she whispered. Ever. No more lies, Nash promised. On my life. Silence settled between them, heavy, honest, hopeful. Serena stepped toward him, close enough to see the fear in his eyes, the hope. The love he wasn't hiding anymore. I don't know if I can love you, she said softly, but I want to try. Nash exhaled like a man who'd been drowning and finally found air. That's all I need. He reached for her, slowly, giving her a chance to pull back. She didn't. His hands cupped her face, and Serena leaned into him as he kissed her. Slow. Deep. Gentle. A promise pressed into her lips. I want to build a life with you, Nash said, his forehead resting against hers. A real life. Together. Serena's breath trembled. You're asking too much, she whispered. Then let me ask one more thing, Nash said, voice breaking. He took her hands. Marry me, Serena gasped. Nash. Not because of the past, he said quickly. Not because of guilt. Not because you need saving, but because I love you. Because you make me better. Because I want to wake up every morning knowing I get to fight for you, not against you. Serena stared at him. The wind tugged at her dress. The sky darkened behind him. This was insane. It was reckless. It was everything she never thought she'd be allowed to want. If I say yes, she whispered, Opal comes with me. Always. She's family, Nash said. Of course she does. And I need to know you'll treat me as a partner, not a debt, not a burden. You're the woman I want by my side, Nash said fiercely. Nothing less. Serena closed her eyes. Her heart settled. Not calm, but sure. Yes. Nash froze. Yes? He repeated, stunned. Yes, Serena breathed. I'll marry you. Quote. A sound escaped him, half laugh, half relief, as he pulled her into his arms and spun her once, kissing her breathless. I'll make you happy, he promised. Every day, for the rest of my life. You better, Serena said, laughing through tears. Because I know how to make your life miserable if you don't. I believe you, Nash murmured, and kissed her again. 2 weeks later, in a small church in Red Creek, Serena Hol became Serena Montlair. She walked down the aisle in a simple cream dress, Opal smiling proudly at her side. Nash waited at the front, eyes full of love so steady it made her knees weak. When they exchanged vows, Serena's voice shook, not with fear, but with something warmer, stronger, hope. That night in the quiet hotel room, Nash held her gently, reverently, as if he knew what it meant for a woman who'd survived so much to finally rest in someone's arms. And Serena let herself believe, maybe for the first time, that she had a future worth keeping. Weeks passed, then months. Serena learned to live on the vast Montlair ranch, 10,000 acres of rolling Montana land, sunlight, and sky. She learned to ride with Nash, to cook with the house staff, to run a household bigger than anything she'd ever seen. Opal grew stronger, finally healing with proper medicine, food, and warmth. Nash kept every promise. He rebuilt the mine safety laws. He cleared Serena's father's name. He set up the memorial fund, and every night he came home with dust on his boots and love in his eyes. A year later, Serena handed him the news he never expected. "I'm pregnant." Nash dropped his book and fell to his knees, pressing his face to her stomach as tears filled his eyes. "We're having a baby," he whispered. Months later, their son was born during the first winter snowfall. They named him James, after her father, and as the years passed, more children came. More laughter, more love. More nights on the porch under the Montana sky. 15 years later, Serena stood with Nash on that same porch, watching their children play in the golden yard. She leaned into him, her heart full. "Funny," she said softly, "all I wanted back then was a day off." Nash smiled and pulled her close. "And now?" he asked. "Now," Serena whispered, "I have a whole lifetime of days worth living." And under that endless sky, with the wind brushing the grass and their children laughing, Serena finally understood. The moment she told the truth about what she wanted most was the moment her entire life began.